A very good evening to all of you, and good morning to the people who are in the other time zones. So today we have come here to start our this classroom series on the subject of the organon. So first of all, I would like to address something that why we had this need to start this organon class. I have been going to different countries from past, I think, 11 or 12 years and meeting many doctors. And when I talk with them, there are so many questions which the doctors they basically ask me about different kind of things, about the prescriptions, about how we have to see what is important in a case, or why we should give a single dose, or why there should be one single medicine. Or then there are very other kinds of questions like regarding many things, many other concepts of homeopathy. And I realized that there has been one thing, you know, because all the doctors who I have met in the other countries, there was very common thing that most of them have been practicing some other science, some allopathy or some other natural sciences or something else at one point of their life, and they decided to turn to homeopathy, to start practicing homeopathy or start searching for some answers in homeopathy. And I have seen in almost all the doctors this thing. There are two basic reasons why most of them turn to homeopathy, which I have found. The first reason, which was almost there in all of them, was that the same reason why Dr. Hahnemann basically changed from his allopathic practice to the homeopathic practice, why he discovered homeopathy, Dr. Hahnemann. That was the same reason which I have found in most of the doctors whom I have met, that they were not satisfied with the results which they were getting in their practice. There was this doctor in Brazil, a lady doctor. She used even the word that when I used to go to the clinic, I even feel embarrassed, meeting my patients because I don't have any cure or answer for them. She was, I think, a skin specialist. And she said that I stopped practicing medicine until I was introduced to homeopathy. And then I started practicing again. So it was the same reason, that which pushed Dr. Hahnemann to discover homeopathy. And the second reason, which I have found in the doctors who wanted to practice homeopathy, was that they wanted to go into something which could have solution, which could have answer to the existing state of medicine. So when I will see these people who are full of that passion to do something in their life and still have very these queries which were hindering them from achieving what they wanted to do. So this idea of starting this organon class was going on from past 1.5 2 years, but then there is a time for everything, because what organon basically helps us with is we will go through in the coming slides one by one. We will go through the things. I'm just giving you an overview of why we have started these series, or what was the need for this thing. Because organ basically gives us direction on how to practice homeopathy. We have known how to practice homeopathy from the mouths of different doctors. Organon is basically a mouthpiece of Dr. Hahnemann himself. The aphorisms, the words which are written in the Organon, they are basically the mouthpiece of Dr. Hahnemann himself on instructing a physician, a homeopath, that what they should do in order to practice homeopathy. Okay. So, with that said, with that small introduction, we'll directly start with our presentation. Okay, so we'll start with our today's presentation. So we'll start with a quote of Nikola Tesla, a very well-known scientist who was very famous for his beyond time research and beyond time experiments, which are very futuristic in his time. So he gave a very good view of how to find the solutions, of how to see the things. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in the terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. Why I want to start with these words is because these are the things which we will be going through the organon. That if you want to find the secrets of the universe, secrets mean the truth, because truth is always hidden in plain sight. It is just hidden in our sight. We just cannot see because our mind is basically thinking in different terms. So, if you want to know the secrets or the truth of the universe, you need to think in the terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations instead of in the terms of matter. So, this is a very huge difference in mentality which we have to bring when we are going through the organ. And we will go through, the more we'll go through it, the more you will realize the need for that change. So, we'll start with the organon of medicine. So, organon of medicine, the art of healing. So, first we will start with this word, the art of healing. Why many authors, even Dr. Kent, even the other commentators who have commented on the organon of medicine, all of them has differentiated between the science of homeopathy and the art behind it. So, first we will need to understand why it was called or why it is called the art of healing. Science, what is science basically? First of all, science is basically a methodology developed on the base of experimenting and observing. So, whenever you experiment on something, whenever you observe something, then we form a methodology. We form a method how to do a thing. Like, for example, I have taken an example about the food items which I have seen in Thailand or in Brazil or India. Like when someone made tam kha gaye or chicken parmesan or some cheese tomato for the first time in the history of cooking, that person basically experimented with the dish. Okay. So he experimented with those ingredients of the dish, that coconut, that uh, lemongrass, that tomato, that cheese, the mushrooms. They experimented it. They experimented with the dish. Then they observed the taste of the dish, the smell of the dish, how it was, and altered the ingredients again and again to make a perfect recipe. So this was the science which they have done. They have experimented on it. They have observed it for the first time, and they prepared a perfect recipe. And then this recipe was passed on to thousands of people. But then the question comes, can everyone make the dish in the same way as the inventor? You go to a restaurant, you see how a chef, how a cook has made a dish, you eat it. You enjoy it, you enjoy the taste, you enjoy the smell, and you ask for the recipe. If the cook or the chef gives you the exact recipe how to make, even then it is not possible to make the same thing, same dish, same cuisine in the same way, because that is the art. So art is basically the application of science. The science is given, the cuisine, all the ingredients, in what measurement they should be put, how much heat should be applied, how for how long it should be kept in the heat. That all is given. The science behind that thing is given. But still we are not able to make it exactly in the same way because that requires art. Okay. So art is basically the application of the science which is given. So science is already given in the Organon by Dr. Henneman. So we have already been given the science of homeopathy by Dr. Henneman in the Organon. We just have to apply it by practice and make ourselves an artist in homeopathy. The more we practice, the more we become good in this thing. For example, if you give um, a paintbrush to a child or to even to an adult, he will not be able to make a very good portrait on the first day. But the more they practice, the more they keep doing it, he makes that portrait 50 times, 100 times, 150 times. He starts getting better at it because he knows the science. He just have to practice on that science. So, but an artist has to understand the basic fundamental concepts of what she should do and what not to. So before the application of that science, we have to understand the basic fundamental concepts. We have to understand, if we are a cook or a chef, that the heat should be this much, the flame should be this much, this should be the utensil which should be used, this kind of spices, salt or other things we have to use. So the basic fundamental concepts we have to know. And then once we know the concepts, once we know the science behind that thing, and we start practicing it, that becomes an art. So now next question is, who is a homeopath? Many times, many patients ask this question. Many times when we go out, these basic questions are asked, that who, because many times we are questioned, like Dr. Jose, Dr. Mara in Brazil and Dr. Jonkol and other doctors in the Thailand, that why do you call your organization Right Homeopathy? Many times this question comes up, that why you call this Right Homeopathy? Do you want to mean that all the others are doing the wrong homeopathy except you? That is not the purpose behind it, and people take it in the wrong way. The word right homeopathy is basically used to tell people that there is something wrong also going on. Everywhere when they listen that it is homeopathy or he is or she is a homeopath, that does not usually mean that it is basically, or that person is basically prescribing or doing homeopathy on the principles laid down in the organon. Okay. So who is a homeopath? We are not talking about right, but who is a homeopath basically? So a homeopath is not the one who gives homeopathic medicines. Just because a person is giving homeopathic medicine, we cannot say that he's a homeopath. A homeopath is not the one who has a degree or diploma or license to practice homeopathy. Even the person who has a degree or a diploma, or he has been given a license to practice homeopathy, he's also not a homeopath. A homeopath is not the one who talks and teaches about homeopathy. Even that person who likes homeopathy, he talks about homeopathy, or he or she even teaches about homeopathy, does not make the person homeopath. What is a homeopath? Who is a homeopath? Only that person can be said to be a homeopath who chooses to cure the patient according to the principles laid in the organon. The principles which we have been given in the organon, which are all easily comprehensible. We can very easy. The main thing about organon is many times I have when we are discussing some things about the organon with I'm discussing with some other homeopaths or with some students, you know, um, the first thing which comes is that it is very difficult to understand organon. I will come to that part why it becomes difficult to understand organon for us. But when we will go through organon now after we will be doing it every Wednesday. So around in 1 month we will be going through around 20 or 25 aphorisms. When we will be into when we have crossed around 70-80 aphorisms in 3 or 4 months, in next 3 or 4 months, then I will come to this question again. I will ask all of you that now let me know that how difficult is it to understand the organon. And through this time, when we will be going through organon, I will also kind of request you to see to it that how many of your answers are automatically being answered. The answers, sorry, the questions which you had from a long time about certain aspects of homeopathy, you will see that 50 to 60% of the answers will be already answered in the first 4 or 5 months of this thing, which we will go through. Because when you start understanding it in a way as it is meant to be understood, the principles become very, very easy. Very easy. Even you make someone sit in front of you, a person who does not know about homeopathy, a person who does not have any medical background, and you tell these principles, things to that person who does not know anything about these things, he will also understand. They are so easily understandable. So a person who basically chooses to cure the patient according to the principles laid in the organon, he can be called homeopath, and who heals for the love of healing. That is a very important thing. This word is basically given by Dr. Kent. And when I read about this thing, in his philosophy, I was going through it, where he writes about it, that a successful homeopath or a real homeopath basically heals for the love of healing. I got to understand, what it means to be a homeopath. So it does not mean to have a degree or a diploma or just give homeopathic medicine or talk about homeopathy. It means that the first aphorism, we will go through that first aphorism. That first aphorism, and we will talk about it. Why Dr. Hahnemann chose to write this particular aphorism as the first aphorism. Why not some other aphorism? Why this was the first aphorism? Why this aphorism was the introduction to the organon? Because in that aphorism, this whole thing is there that a physician calls himself physician. The mission is to heal the patient. That is the basic thing which should run through a physician and a homeopath. That love of healing. When you heal someone, when your medicine works in someone, even before that, before giving the medicine, there has to be this feeling that this patient needs cure, and that is what I'm going to do it. So next is what is organon. Okay. After who is homeopath, we have to understand what is organon. Now, some say that organon is basically a manual for homeopaths on how to cure the patient. That it is a book where the instructions are written that how a homeopath should cure patient. Or some say that organon is a list of do's and don'ts on what should be done while curing the sick. That what you should do or what you should not do. It is basically a list. The aphorisms are basically list of what one should do or not do while curing or while treating the patient. Some say Organon is compilation of Dr. Henneman's experiences. Okay, all these things are true. But it shows when we talk about these things, these three things, the compilation, the do's and don'ts, and the manual. This appears more like a mechanics of the organon, like it is a more of a mechanical view to see the organon, more of a mechanical thought to see the organon. But when you go to the soul of the organon, when you go away again from the matter to that energy, that vibration, the first slide of Tesla, which I showed you, when you move from that mechanical part to the energy part, to the soul of the organon, you will see a very different thing. What is that different thing is that apart from this, organon contains the feeling behind the discovery of homeopathy. In each aphorism, when you will, while reading the aphorism, when you start feeling that aphorism, these two are different things, reading and feeling that thing. When you start feeling it, you will start feeling the need for the discovery of homeopathy behind each and every word of Dr. Henneman. And this is the main thing why most of us are not able to understand homeopathy, because we cannot connect with the feeling behind it. The words are just simple words. In any book, everywhere, the words are just words. But the words, when they are based on the truth, they need to be felt deep inside us. Only then they can basically make a meaning. So it contains Dr. Henneman's emotions. And unless a homeopath taps in these feelings and understand these emotions, it becomes very difficult to comprehend master's teachings. I will just give you an example in the next slide. This is basically a slide to the preface to the first edition of Organon. When for the first time, Dr. Henneman, he started writing the Organon. This was the preface to the book. Now just try to feel this preface. Try to feel the words. According to the testimony of all ages, no occupation is more unanimously declared to be a conjectural art than medicine. He's saying that from the ages, from the long time, from when the medicine was discovered, it is the only occupation which is declared as the conjectural art. Conjecture means when you are just supposing that this might happen, make this happen. Okay, so he's saying that only the medical art is that art which have been supposed from the many times, although it has been practiced, although it is being practiced from thousands of years, but it has been declared as a conjectural art. Conjectural mean it is basically based on the opinions of the people. For example, if I think that okay, the headache should be relieved by some kind of hot fermentation, okay, some other students or some other people, they start um, to go with my opinion, then they will start doing it. So that medicine has been more of an opinionated thing. That is why before homeopathy, if you want, you can go through the introduction of the organon. It is very beautifully written by Dr. Henneman. I'm not going with the introduction, but we'll keep on talking about some points which he has mentioned in the introduction, because it is a long thing and it might take another 3 or 4 months going through that thing. So I would request you to go through that thing. It is very simply written about, mostly he has written about the medicine in his time, before his time, and why he felt this need to change or need to discover or go through with this homeopathy. Okay. So before the discovery of homeopathy, the thing was that before the discovery of homeopathy, there were no based, there were no particular principles for practicing any kind of medicine. No particular principles. There were just opinions. That is why after some few years, after 20 years, 30 years, some new theory will come up and people will start with that theory. After 20, 30 years, that theory will become obsolete, old. People will reject it, start with some new theory. And then after 20 or 30 years, they will reject that theory and come up with new theory. That is how the medicine was being practiced. Even now, it is being practiced like this. Consequently, none has less right to refuse a searching inquiry as to whether it is well founded than it, on which man's health, his most precious possession on earth, depends. So he's saying that everybody had this right to refuse this kind of medicine and search or inquire that what is this basically founded on. This conjectural art, this medicine which was being practiced, one has the right to ask those people the question that what are you basically giving prescription on it, because you are prescribing for the man's most precious possession on earth. We have house, we have car, we have so many of possession, we have land, we have business, but all those things are very small in front of man's health. If a man is not in his best of his health, he cannot enjoy all these things. So look at the words which he's using. The most precious possession on earth is basically a man's health, and he depends upon it. He depends upon the medical art to keep him healthy. So he's saying, Dr. Henneman is saying in this first paragraph that why the medical science or the medical field have been going through this kind of opinionated conjectural arts, you know, refusing one theory, coming up with new, and then refusing it, and then coming up with new, and keeping, kind of using those unrealistic theories, not well founded theories to cure the man and his health. I consider that it redounds to my honor that I am the only one in recent times who has subjected it to a serious, honest investigation. So now Dr. Heyman says that now it comes to my honor. I am speaking on my honor that I am the only one in recent times who has subjected it to a serious, that I have very seriously, honestly investigated on these things, on all the theories which are prevalent at my time, which have been before me. I have seriously investigated on these things and has communicated to the world the results of his convictions in writings published. And I have communicated to the world in my writings, which have been published, that I am basically investigating these things, investigating why the people are giving medicine in this way and how it should be given. Some with and some without my name. So some, because he was writing essays in the medical magazines which were being published at that time before the publication of Organon. He was writing the essays, the articles in these publications. Some he was writing with his name, and some he was writing without his name anonymously. Okay. So before the Organon, he was doing this thing. So in this investigation, now what he has found in this investigation? In this investigation, I found the way to truth, but I had to tread it alone. So he was a very far-sighted man. He knew, he said that I have found the way to truth, but he also knew that he had to walk on this way alone, that no one is going to understand this thing in the first time, because it will be very, it, it was completely opposite to what was going on at that time. Very far from the common highway of medical routine. So the medical routine which is going on, it is very far away. This way of truth is very far away from that common highway, and he knew that he has to walk on it alone. The farther I advanced from truth to truth, the more my conclusions, none of which I accepted unless confirmed by my experience, led me away from the old edifice. So he said that the more I advanced from one truth to the another, more his conclusions. led him away from the old edifice, from the old practice which was going on. He basically was led away. He saw the things which were being done wrong in all those things because he was more going towards truth. He was more able to see clearly the truth. And he said that these conclusions, they are all basically accepted after he has a great experience with them. The pertinacity of Dr. Henneman can be seen from this simple aspect that he started working on the theory of miasm. We will be talking about it when the aphorisms of miasm will come. He started working on the theory of miasm and he did not tell even a single soul about his experiences, about his experiments, till he basically announced it. And it took him 13 years. 13 years he worked on single theory of miasm before basically announcing it to the world. So from here we can understand about the persistence and honesty of Dr. Henneman, that he was not a person who will work on something for 3 months or 4 months and come up with a theory. He worked for 13 years and in thousands of patients when he saw that thing happening and he was convinced that this is the truth. Then only he basically announced it to the world. So just from this one fact, we can, you know, um see how honest he was in his work. We will come up with the examples from his life histories, and the more we go, because a man, if you want to know about a man, you cannot know about a man from someone who is close to him, from someone who knows him. No, you can know about a man from what he believes in. So as you will go through the Organon, you will start knowing about how Dr. Henneman was. Who was Dr. Henneman? What kind of person he was? The more you will read the Organon, the more you will start to understand the character of who Dr. Henneman was. So let me away from the old edifice, which being built of opinions. So very clearly, Dr. Henneman is saying that this old practice, this old edifice, these old theories, they were basically built of only opinions and maintained by opinions. And this is very truth about the medical field, medical art, which was being practiced, even some of it now. So the result of my convictions are set forth in this book. So before going further, I will give a word of caution because as I know, all of who have joined here have this passion to understand homeopathy, to do homeopathy, to practice homeopathy, to cure the patients. But many of us, we are coming from that allopathic background. Okay. So during this studying of Organon, the words which Dr. Henneman will use, the aphorisms which will come up, the things which he will say, there might come a stage, because I have seen with many doctors, many people, there might come a stage where the things, the aphorisms, the wordings, they will go against the basic core concept of yours. I would request you to let it go against it. Just wait for some time. Because many times, the only way to learn something new is to unlearn something which is old. We have to unlearn. We have to leave that thing. We have to forget some things. Otherwise, they will always create a resistance to what we are going to learn, which is something new. But yes, after you do that, because in the next paragraph, he's basically going to say that thing which I'm going to say to you now, that you just keep an open mind. You just let it come. Let all these things come to you. And then try to understand that what feels more truthful to you, what feels more real to you. Because we all have an intrinsic intellect. One is the learned intellect, the intellect which we keep on learning from our concepts, from society, from the books, from the education which is being passed to us. Every society, every religion have different kind of concepts, different kind of opinions, which we have learned. But then there is an intrinsic intellect which we were born with. That is not a learned intellect. So that intrinsic intellect always takes us towards the truth. There will be some things in your life which will feel very real, although you don't know why, because the mind cannot tell you, but they will feel real here in your heart. You will say that, okay, this is something, uh, although my learned mind does not accept it, but this feels real. So same is going to happen to you when we'll be going through this organon. So I will just request you to let that happen. Don't resist it much, but just let it happen. Okay. So going further, it remains to be seen whether physicians who mean to act honestly by their conscience and by their fellow creatures will continue to stick to the pernicious tissue of conjectures and caprice, or can open their eyes to the salutary truth. So this was my caution to you, which Dr. Henneman is also saying, that now it remains on the physicians who are going to come and read this book, read my works, who mean to act honestly by their conscience. Okay, they have this conscience inside, because this, most of, I think all of you have already proven when you decided to do homeopathy, that because the most of the people who have, decided from going uh, from allopathy to homeopathy, they had this thing, that they were too conscientious. All the people, all the doctors, I have seen this thing, that somewhere they were hit by the guilt of not being able to cure the patients. So there was this honesty and conscience in them, where they basically wanted to do something where they can really help the patients. So to act honestly by their conscience and by their fellow creatures will continue to stick pernicious to the pernicious tissue of conjectures and caprice, or can open their eyes to the salutary truth. Okay. So now it remains to the Dr. Henneman is basically uh, kind of throwing the ball in our court, that now it will be seen that whether with honesty and conscience, we as physicians can open our eyes to this truth, or we still keep on doing that old pernicious work, on old destructive work, that old hurtful work, which is basically based on opinions or the caprice of some physician. So now this is a warning of Dr. Henneman. I must warn the reader. There is, all these paragraphs, you can feel that emotion behind what he wanted the physicians, or the physicians who are turning towards homeopathy, to do. I must warn the reader that indolence, love of ease, and obstinacy preclude effective service at the altar of truth. He's saying that if you want to serve at the platform of the truth, if you want to serve for the truth, so you should not be indolent, lazy. You should not be in a state of love of ease, that every thing should happen easily. And one should not have an obstinate mind. And only freedom from prejudice. We have to be free from prejudice. We have to be open. We have to have an open mind and untiring zeal. Without tiring, we have to keep working hard. Qualify for the most sacred of all human occupations. Because being physician, being a doctor, treating some patient, It is the most sacred of all human occupations. We are not dealing with some kind of machineries. We are not making some kind of, things. We are not manufacturing. We are not uh, selling something. We are basically trying to save life. We are basically trying to make a life better. So that is why it is the most sacred of all human occupations. When a patient comes to us, he gives his life and health in our hands, which is the most precious possession of a person. And we have to deal very carefully with it. So for dealing it, we have to be free from all the prejudice. We have to have a zeal, a passion for that thing. We should not be indolent. We should not be obstinate. And this is the practice of the true system of medicine and the physician who enters in his work in this spirit. The word used is the spirit. I You will see also this even before also. I give importance to the words which have been written by Dr. Henneman because he is not a person. You will see when you will go through the organon. I have already gone through many times, uh, so I can say one thing with very much confirmation that he was not a man who would use words without any meaning. Wherever he placed a word in a line in a sentence, it was very carefully placed, very carefully. The word is spirit. The physician who enters in his work in this spirit, with this kind of energy, with this kind of vibration, what kind of that I am performing the most sacred of all human occupations. I have to be very truthful towards it. I should not be obstinate. I should be free from all the prejudice. I should not be a person who should, kind of find some shortcuts or some, okay, I will do it later, or, like this kind of attitude. This kind of spirit should be there that, yes, that love of healing, that kind of spirit that I love when a person gets healed. That is the only thing I want to see. That is the only thing which I want to do to help someone heal, to help someone get cured and healthy. So when the physician who enters in his work in this spirit, when a physician enters, does his work, prescribes the remedy, sees the patient with this spirit, he becomes directly assimilated to the divine creator of the world. He is basically in relation, a communication with that divine creator of the world, because he's basically doing the same thing with the divine creator have been doing since the starting of the world. He's taking care of the human beings. He's taking care of the life as the divine creator has been taking care of. So when he's in the same spirit, he gets directly assimilated to the divine creator of the world, whose human creature he helps to preserve. And he's helping the divine creator to preserve the human creatures, the human lives, and whose approval renders him thrice blessed. And if he enters into this work with this kind of spirit, he is thrice blessed by that divine creator of the world. So these are not the just words. After experiencing all these things, these are the feelings of Dr. Henneman when he was writing the Organon for the first time. So you need to feel his words to understand the Organon. We need to feel it inside, each and every word. So with this, we will start with the first Organon. Oh, sorry, first aphorism of the Organon. So the first aphorism, many of us have, memorized it. Many of all, I think almost all of us has. The physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure, as it is termed. Now, for the people who are new to Organon, there are two parts in the Organon. One are the aphorisms, the paragraph, the main paragraph. And then there are, in some paragraphs, there are the footnotes, some explanation on something which Dr. Hahnemann wanted to give. Like in the first aphorism, the termed, as it is termed, it has been given a footnote, which we will read later on. Okay, so this is basically his explanation about this word or this phrase as it is termed. But before going there, the first thing is why Dr. Hahnemann, he started with this aphorism as the first aphorism. He could have started have with the discovery of homeopathy. He could have started with the similia similibus currenter. He could have started with his own introduction or something. No, he started with the first basic thing, the most important thing. What? What is the most important thing? The physician and what is his mission? What basically describes the physician? Because what we do in our life basically describe us. Anyone who is into a profession, anyone who is into some kind of field, whatever he do, it describes that profession and that person. So what describes the physician as a profession, as a person, is his mission. What is the mission? Is to restore the sick to health. He's not saying the homeopath's high and only mission. No. Anyone who calls him a physician, anyone who calls himself a doctor, their mission, the first mission is to cure the sick. The patient who is coming to him, his first mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure. And that is the only mission. It is not that this is the first mission, this is the high and only mission. Rest all you can do at your own time. If you want to be a teacher, you can teach at your own time. If you want to be some scientist or some researcher, you can be at on your own time. But being a physician, the high and the only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure as it is done. The second thing to understand is to restore the sick. Now, to understand the sick, many people have given comment. Very beautiful one has been given by Dr. Kent in his philosophy. So to understand the sick, what is the sick? Sick is not the sickness. Sick is the man. When a patient comes to you, he will say that, doctor, I am not feeling well. He never says my head is not feeling well. He will never say my abdomen is not feeling well. He will not say my legs are not feeling well. He will say the first thing is that I am not feeling well. I. That I is the sick. The sickness is basically the result of the person being sick. Sickness comes afterwards, but before he became sick. For example, a child comes to you. The child is not having a good sleep. The child is cranky, little irritable, and he's not eating well. If you go to allopathic doctor, he makes some tests. He sees everything is normal. There is nothing wrong with the test. There is nothing wrong in the um, scanning of the child. He will announce that no, he's okay. He's okay. He's not sick because all the systems, all the biochemistry, all the works, they are normal. But when the same child comes to a homeopath, the homeopath knows that, okay, there might not be any alteration at the level of organ or physiology, but I can see that the child is not well. And this has happened to one of my patients. A patient came to me with very bad pains in his legs that he He used to say that doctor, he used to work in a post office as a clerk. He had a desk job. So he will go to his work and he will work for 1 hour, 2 hours. After that, he will start feeling very weak. His body will start aching, his legs will start aching, and he will not be comfortable. He will not be able to sit for longer time. And it was very bad state for him that like his job from was from 9 to 4 in the evening. And when it would be 12 in the afternoon, 1 in the afternoon, he will be very weak to work. So he went to many neurosurgeons. They did some tests on him. They did some this MRI of the spine. They did some EEG tests. Everything was normal. There was nothing there. So most of the doctors they will say that we don't know what is happening to you. We don't have any answer that you appear to be okay. But he would be complaining, doctor, look, I have come to you in the afternoon and my legs are aching so much. So they will prescribe him some painkillers, but they will not work for long time. They will have an effect for 1 hour or 2 hours. He will again go to the doctor that the painkillers are not working. So they will give some vitamins, some minerals. Then they tested and tried everything, but nothing was getting better. And but he will keep going and going. And one day, one of the doctors, he finally said that you are just making up all the symptoms in your mind. You don't have anything. And he was very hurt by that thing. That why how the doctor can say that I am making up all the things in my mind. Because in allopathy, we are looking at the organs, at the tissues, at the biochemistry, at the calcium, the enzymes, the hemoglobin, all these things, ignoring the man. We are ignoring the man. The man is saying I'm not well, and we are trying to search for that sickness in the reports, in the tests, in the machines. So this patient came to me, and the first question when he told me all those symptoms, he asked me was, Doctor, do you think there is some problem with me, or I'm just making these things up? He was hurt so much. Said that, why are you saying this thing? You are saying that you are not well, and that means that you are not well. That no one in their right sense of the mind would make up such kind of symptoms, because he was a very workaholic person right from the beginning. Said that I want to work at my office, I want to do the things, but I'm not able to do. And he was this man. Uh, he his family even comes now. He has taught the medicine because he got well. He was given picric acid by me, and he got cured by picric acid. And he became so happy that whenever he tells someone to come to me, he says that, that is the only doctor who could diagnose my disease. Although I didn't diagnose anything, but in those terms, in those things, he would say that that is the only doctor in, the northern India who could diagnose my disease. No other doctors, the big names, the big hospitals, they could not even diagnose my disease. So it is not that we have diagnosed, but we know to what we have to restore. We are not restoring the sickness. We are not going after the sickness. Sickness is basically the result of a sick man. We have to understand this thing. In homeopathy, we don't make diagnosis. We don't need any kind of diagnosis. There is no medicine for diabetes. There is no medicine for hypertension. There is no medicine for even a headache. Even there is no medicine for cough and cold. But yes, there is a medicine for a man who is suffering from cough and cold. There is a medicine for a man who is suffering from diabetes mellitus. There is a medicine for a man who is suffering from cancer. So Dr. Henneman has written very beautiful line that there are no diseases but sick men. The men, they are sick. And these diseases are basically outcome because that man is sick. When we just look at the tissues or the organs or this thing, Dr. Kent has given a very good anomaly for this thing, that when a man is dead, when a person dies, all his organs are there, all his tissues are there, all the enzymes, the neurotransmitters, the hormones, everything is there. If you do a post-mortem of a dead person who just recently died, the brain, the heart, the lungs, the bladder, kidney, everything is there. So what is dead? What was there which is gone now? Because all that was matter, all that was material is still there. The genes are there, the brain is there, the tissues are there, the blood is there, all the hormonal organs are there, endocrine system is there. So what is dead now? What is gone? What is not there? That was the man. That which is gone was the man. Because he was there, that is why this material body was working. So this physician, his high and only mission is to restore the sick, that sick man to health, to cure, as it is termed. Now this is the next part, the third part of this aphorism. As it is termed, there should be a basic definition of cure. That will come in the second aphorism. There should be a basic definition of cure. It should not be that, okay, if some patient comes to me, I come to you tomorrow that, okay, this patient, he had a very bad migraine. I gave him medicine, see, he's cured. Although the patient comes again after 2 months with the same thing or 15 days with the same thing, that is not cure. So we'll go to the footnote of this aphorism, where Dr. Henneman is saying again the about this is he is saying about the mission. His mission is not, however, to construct so-called systems by interweaving empty speculations and hypotheses concerning the internal essential nature of the vital processes. Dr. Henneman is saying that this is not the mission of a physician, that he makes empty theories based upon opinions, based upon some kind of speculation, theorizing regarding what is going inside of the body, how something is working inside, how the disease are originating, and the mode in which the disease originate in the invisible interior of the organism. The interior of the organism is completely invisible to us. Okay, we can see through microscope, but whatever we see is basically the result of the disease. It is not the disease. So just to make some empty speculation or theories, this is not the work of the physician. Whereon so many physicians have hitherto ambitiously wasted their talents and their time. This might be a work of a biologist. Might be work of a pathologist. This might be work of some other branch of the science. This is not the work of the physician to waste their talent on these kind of things. Nor is it to attempt to give countless explanations regarding the phenomena in diseases. Then Dr. Hahnemann says that it is not his work, his mission, the person who calls himself a physician, to give explanation about the phenomena in the diseases, how diseases develop, what they go from one thing to the another thing. That might be a work of a pathologist, but not the work of physician. And their proximate cause, which must ever remain concealed. Very beautifully written. Mm, there is 300, 400 years of medical science where they have wasted the money and the time in finding the causation of the disease. The best they could find was the bacteria, the virus, and the fungus, and all these kind of things, the microorganisms. And that also to be a very pointless thing. Why pointless? Because recently from past few years. This has come in the research papers that these viruses, these bacteria, these fungus, they are basically part of our immune system. So whenever a part becomes diseased, these microorganisms go to that part to resolve something, to resolve some dead tissue, to resolve some necrosed tissue. So they were never basically part. And this thing was written by Dr. Hahnemann himself in his lesser writings. And then Dr. Kent in his this philosophy in the same chapter, The Sick, you can go and read it. He has very beautifully written that there will come a time when the science will realize that these small friends, he's referring to bacteria and this thing, that these small organisms are basically friends to the human being, and they come after the person has been diseased, after the tissue has been diseased, and they come as scavengers, and that has been proved now. But the 200, 300 years of the medical science have been wasted on this in finding their proximate cause, that what causes tuberculosis, what causes meningitis, what causes heart diseases, what causes renal diseases. And Dr. Hahnemann has very beautifully written in 5 words in a bracket, which must ever remain concealed. The cause is always going to remain concealed. We can never find the cause. Especially on the material level, we can never find the cause because it is going to remain concealed. It does not occur in the state of matter. The cause does not occur there. And but they have wasted their time, their talent in giving these kind of explanations wrapped in unintelligible words. And this thing, this, regarding the bacteria and this thing, you can see from your daily experiences. For example, if there is a bacterial fever and you take some antibiotics, okay, from the theory part, the bacteria should be killed by the antibiotics and the patient should be free of the disease. This is what should happen. That okay, my gut, it was affected by bacteria. I took antibiotics. The bacteria was killed by those antibiotics and I should be healthy. But then after some days, it again happens, it again happens, it again happens. And then a time comes when the antibiotics, they stop working. So if the bacteria is the causation, then why the antibiotics are stopped working? Because it is the work of the antibiotic to kill bacteria. And after the killing bacteria, I should get healthy. So why antibiotics stop working? They say that the body has basically, got adapted to it or created a resistance to them. It is not resistance. It is that those are basically a kind of suppressing theory, and now the body is not accepting it. It is just simple. We were trying to suppress something, and now the body is not accepting it. But we wrap them in unintelligible words to explain to someone, to some patient, that okay, now your body is not resisting, is basically has become resistance to the antibiotics. We might start with some new treatment and an inflated abstract mode of expression. So he's saying that the physician, they are using unintelligible words, but with a mode of expression that they are right, what they are saying, they know what they are saying. They seem to make it sound very learned in order to astonish the ignorant. So the people, they are ignorant. They don't know about the medical science. They don't know about the basic things. Although there you will find many patients who will disagree to this kind of thing. Because I get many patients who stopped taking allopathy because they thought that the explanation of doctor was something which was very silly. Whilst the sick humanity sighs in vain for aid, and the whole humanity, it is basically asking for help. The sick humanity all this time is asking for help to get cured, to get healthy. But we, the physicians, are wasting our time in all these kind of things, finding the causation, making some theories, doing one thing or the other thing. Of such learned reveries, to which the name of theoretic medicine is given, and for which special professorships are instituted. So these learned reveries means the things which seem learned, the things which seem intelligent but are not intelligent, and to which the name of theoretic medicine is given, and special professorships, diplomas, degrees are given for these things. So he's saying that we have had quite enough. Now it is high time that we have had enough of this thing. And it is now high time that all who call themselves physicians should at length cease to deceive suffering mankind with mere talk. He said that first thing is that all those people who call themselves physicians should stop deceiving patients. The patients, they are already suffering. The mankind is already suffering. So we should basically stop deceiving with these kind of talks, with these kind of learned reveries. We have to stop deceiving because Dr. Henneman used the word deceiving, that we are deceiving the patients with these kind of things. And begin now instead for once to act. Now we have to act. It is high time that we should stop talking, stop deceiving, and start acting. That is, and acting in what way? To really help and to cure. So in the first aphorism, he gives the whole uh, basic of what a physician must do. In just one aphorism, in just few words, he tells that what one should do and what one should not do. That the whole humanity is suffering, and all those who are called themselves physician should come forward, should come unified, and they should start acting in a way so that with the right kind of medicine, with the right kind of aid, the patient can be cured. The patient, not the sickness, the patient. Our aim, our mission is the patient. So when some new students from the college, so from the first year, second year, they come to me, when I introduced them to this first aphorism, I always tell them that at least for 1 month, whenever you get up in the morning, read and feel this aphorism, because this is what you are going to do your whole life, to restore the sick to health, restore the sick to health, restore the sick to health. We are not treating someone. We are not giving palliation or, just kind of suppressing. We are going to restore the sick to health. They should come to the part of health. That is where we have to take them, where their whole disease is cured. Now we come to the second aphorism, where Dr. Henneman gives us the definition of cure. What is cure? Because here he said that cure as it is termed, there should be a definition for cure. It should not be that, okay, I have treated this patient and operated this thing out of the patient. Or after few months, the patient got the same thing. Like, for example, in many females, after the hysterectomy, when the uterus is removed, the female, they go through many other things because of the lack of the uterus. There are so many hormonal problems. There are so many problems with the urinary system. There are so many problems with the bones of the females. So that is not cure. We just removed one thing or one disease or just a fibroid, and we have given three more dangerous symptoms or two more dangerous symptoms to the female, which she never had. So that is what Dr. Henneman is saying in aphorism 2, that what should be cure? The highest ideal of cure is a rapid, gentle, and permanent restoration of health. The highest ideal, the base idealist of the cure is basically rapid, very fast, gentle. There should not be any kind of pain. It should be very gentle. without any pain, without any suffering, and permanent restoration. The restoration should be permanent. It should not be temporary for 2 months, for 3 months, for 6 months, for 1 year. No, it should be permanent restoration of the health. So this is the first part, one part, that this is the highest ideal of cure, the idealist of the cure. Or then the second part, the other thing which we can call the cure is removal and annihilation of the disease in its whole extent. The whole extent. It is not the removal or annihilation of the disease from the head, from the heart, from the stomach, from the intestines, from the extremities. No, in its whole extent, from the mind and each part of the body, the disease should be removed in the shortest, whatever is the shortest, most reliable, and most harmless way. Now, many times I get this question that what is the shortest? Like, what should be the duration? Okay, good. Although this thing is basically explained in the further coming aphorisms, but I will give a brief. I will just give few examples. For example, uh, I you get a case of cerebral palsy, a child of 4 years whom the doctors have told that he will not be able to walk, he will not be able to sit, he will not be able to stand, he will not be able to, he will always require some help to do one thing or the other. So, what should be the shortest time to cure this patient? Incurable disease. There are so many diseases which have been called incurable. Recently, I had a case uh, of my this Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. A boy of 6 or 7 years who was suffering from Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So all the doctors, they went to all the big hospitals, and when they will ask that, they will do all the tests, this test, that test, and these people, they have spent the parents have hundreds of thousands of rupees on these tests, and then they ask the doctor that, okay, what should we now do? The doctor said that there is no cure for it, and he's explaining them very graphically this thing, that right now, his problem is in the legs, then it will extend to his thighs, then to his back and stomach, where he will, not be able to sit. He will be a person who will be and then this will go more further to his heart and lungs when he will be around 12 years old or 13 years old, and then he will die a slow death. This man, this doctor, rather than giving some words of consolation, some words of sympathy, just say sorry, I can't do this. He's graphically explaining to the parents how their child is going to die in the coming 6 to 7 years. When the parents were telling me, you know, I don't know whether I have a weak heart or something, but these things affect, they affect at a very deep level, that how being a doctor, doctor's work is to give someone hope. And okay, if I cannot cure something, okay, I know, I'm sorry for that, that I can, but there will be some answer for this thing. Keep searching for it. At least a doctor can say these words. I'm not saying that every doctor is like this. No, there are many good doctors. I have encountered so good doctors where they give hope to the patient, and they tell them to, try in homeopathy or somewhere else, just keep looking for the answer. You will find that answer somewhere. But then graphically explaining the parents of the patient about the condition and about this is so cruel. So cruel. And these parents, when they came, when I had talked with them, when I told them that homeopathy have answer to this, they started crying. They literally cried in front, both the mother and father. They say that we were so afraid that, when when our relatives, they told us to come to you, we were not ready to come to go and see any doctor, actually. He said that we were afraid that what if you say the same thing in a same cruel way, then we don't know about the child, but we will die within few months after listening to these things. So, mm, okay, coming back to this thing, now what is the shortest time period for such kind of curing such kind of disease, the incurable diseases? If this child who is not going to walk, the science says or the experience says that the DMD basically is a progressive disease and it will keep on progressing, and there is no known cure in the allopathic medicine. So if this child gets cured in 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, who was not going to get cured, that is the shortest time for him. Any incurable disease, if it gets cured in a given time, in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, whatever the time it is the shortest time, because it was basically termed incurable, and all the diseases are basically termed incurable. There is no disease. The skin diseases are incurable. Asthma is incurable. Heart diseases are incurable. Blood pressures, diabetes are incurable. They are treatable. They can be controlled, but they cannot be cured. Cure means to remove something. Permanent restoration, permanent removal of these things. That is cure. So all these diseases, thyroid, any kind of acute exacerbation of the diseases, myalgias, nervous disorders, convulsions, chorias, Parkinson, they are all incurable diseases. So even if they take 1 year, 2 year, 3 year to get cured, that is the shortest time. Although this will be explained in the coming aphorisms after in the aphorism 72, 73, Dr. Henneman is going to explain this thing. Okay. So in the shortest, most reliable, and the most harmless, where at least we are not harming the patient more. I'm giving a very short example because you all have this experience with the allopathic medicines. So, in the treatment of diabetes, nowadays this medicine, uh, the gliptin, I'm not remembering the full name. This gliptin medicine is being given to control the diabetes. Now, when we see the working of this medicine gliptin, I think triptaglip, something like this. Now, this also will be talked about Dr. Henneman in the organ in the coming aphorisms. In I think aphorisms near 35-40. If we see the diseases of pancreas, the diabetes, it is a disease of pancreas. The beta cells of the pancreas, they are not working properly or they are not secreting the insulin properly. Now, this gliptin medicine, where it acts on the intestine. It acts on the intestine and it basically decreases the uptake of glucose in the intestine. So if you go more deep, I can next time come up with the whole biomechanics if you want. If you go more deep, it basically changes the whole working of few enzymes, which not only uptake the sugar, this thing, but also uptakes other enzymes and other important particles from the food. So when the whole structure of these enzymes is changed, they are not able to uptake any of these things. And because they are not uptake, so there are basically other deficiencies which are seen after taking of this medicine, especially the calcium level they drop, and the patient start feeling more bloated because the basic flora, the basic structure of the enzyme uptake cells, it is basically changed. So the disease is in pancreas, and we are changing the structure of the intestine. So how rational does this sound? There is no problem with the intestine. There is only diabetes. There is no problem with this part. But with this medicine, we have given a problem to this part. So then the doctor knows this thing, that after giving this medicine, the patient is going to suffer bloating or some acidity. So they are already giving antacids. So there was no disease there in that basic particular part, but we have given it. Similarly, there is also a medicine of a similar kind of medicine which basically acts on the glomerular apparatus of the kidneys, where the filters, the nephrons, they are basically give extended few microns so that the sugar molecule can pass through it. The excessive sugar molecules, they can pass through it. So the kidneys do not have any problem. But when the sugar molecules are passing, the body also starts losing proteins because they have almost the similar size. So when there is an increase in the filter of the glomerular apparatus, the with the sugar ions or proteins or some other nutrient, they are also passing out. So the kidney was completely okay. The structure of the kidney was completely okay. The patient had diabetes and the problem was of the pancreas. But now we have given up trouble to the kidney also. So whether this is a harmless way of treating someone. So this is the second principle, that whatever you are using, till now we are going with this thing, that what we will come to homeopathy later on. Here he is basically defining the cure. What should be the cure? So bringing down the level of sugar in the report of the patient and giving a disease to kidney is not a cure. This is not a cure. Rather than being harmless, it is a very harmful way. Very harmful way. So removal and annihilation of the disease in its whole extent in the shortest, most reliable, and most harmless way on easily comprehensible principles. Those principles which are easily comprehensible, which can be comprehended very easily, which can be understood very easily. Now we have talked about two things. One is the sick and the mission of the physician. And the second thing is the cure. What should be the cure? What is the definition of cure? I will want your sincere uh, this thing, your sincere, you can say review or sincere this thing. Understanding of these two things, is it difficult? Understanding what a physician should do and understanding what is the definition of cure. That a cure should be basically rapid, gentle, and permanent restoration of health. The health should be restored and it should be rapid, quickly, in the most shortest possible way, and it should be gentle and harmless. And the disease should be removed from the whole extent. It should not be removed from one part or the another part, or just bringing down the parameters, bringing down the uh, sugar levels, or bringing. No, the patient should start feeling healthy. There should be disease removed from his mind, from his body, from his each and every organ and tissue. So that is what we will term as cure, and it should be permanent. So Are these two things very difficult to understand? Most of my patients, because whenever the patient comes to me, like all the patients, they're basically coming from an allopathic understanding to homeopathic understanding. So I always you know, make them aware of how it should be. What should be the cure? What should you expect? I'm not giving you medicine. Patient is coming to me that doctor, okay, I'm having a fibroid. So I always tell them that I'm not giving you medicine for your fibroid. And they get very amazed. Oh, this will help with my blood pressure also. Okay. This will help with my weakness also. The same medicine. This will also help with my headache and sleep and my appetite. They are amazed also and they are happy also that the one medicine can help with everything. Because I'm not curing fibroid. We are not curing sleep. We are curing the sick man. And all the result of that sick man, when a man starts becoming healthy, all the effects they will start disappearing. They start going away. And even I tell them that even those things, those symptoms which you might have forget to tell me. For example, there might be some symptoms or some problems which you might have forgot to tell me. They will also get better. Because we are sure that when a sick person is going to get better, and this happens in many of my patients, when I say this thing, they come after one or two visits and then they tell me, oh doctor, I had a problem with this, my urination or my stools, which I have not told you about, but it seems to be better now. Because we know that we are prescribing for the patient, for the man. So when the man becomes healthy, that disease will be removed and annihilated from its whole extent, even the extent which the patient forgot to mention, even from that extent. So I think we will take a break for today. We'll take stop this discussion today because we will not overextend it. I think 1.5 hours is good for understanding. Otherwise, it becomes too heavy. And we would also welcome any kind of questions which you have, which you feel that the some things which you are confused about, some things. It might be in my language, it might be in my words, it might be something which was part of the subject which we were discussing. So you are all welcome to send those queries to the administrators in the group. You can send it to Dr. Jongpol, to Dr. Jose, or Dr. Rishabh, or even to myself in the group. And in the next part, we will start with all those queries. We will first answer the queries and then start with the aphorisms. Because today we had this introduction and everything, so we were able to do only two aphorisms. But from next time onwards, we will focus that we do at least 5 to 6 or 7 aphorisms in per meeting. Okay. So Dr. Jonkpol and Dr. Sobis have assured me that they will do a Thai translation for these lectures, and I thank them for this effort which they are doing, and it will be very helpful for understanding of uh, Organon in Thailand to all the Thai doctors. And maybe same we can do in Brazil also in Portuguese. And rest, there are some doctors from US and I think English is fine with them. If they have any difficulty, they can ask me. So I would thank you all and we'll call it a day. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night. Have a very good day. Thank you.